have immense pleasure in welcoming Mr. R. Madhavan to our outdoor advertising convention. It is really a great moment for us. And Mr. Madhavan, thank you so much for taking time off from what is really a very busy time for him. And you know, for obvious reasons. Thank you so much. I'm going to engage you in a bit of a conversation to understand the journey that you have had, which I can only say is incredible. So, Mr. Madhavan, if I can have the liberty of calling you Madhavan. Of course, you're also known as Maddie, but I'll call you Madhavan. Is that all right?
That's fine, Mr. Rajiv.
Fantastic. So please have your seat.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So generally, having a look at the journey that you've had, all that I can say is that it was not a very filmy journey to begin with. You know, your father had a very successful career with Tata Steel. Your mother had a very good career with State Bank of India. You have yourself done a bachelor's, BSc in electronics. So what got you to the film world? And if I may say that if I have to look at how much ever I read about you, is that you also do not have any early signs of having been into dramatics or of having gone to the National School of NSD, or there isn't even that familiar story of many successful actors who came to Mumbai with just 5,000 rupees in your pocket and went through all the struggles and then finally made it big one day. Madhavan, you don't have any of those stories, and yet you have had fantastic success as one of the rare male actors who's equally successful in the Hindi film industry or Bollywood as much as in the southern film industry. So, we are very keen to know what was really the recipe for your incredible success.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Mr. Rajiv. That's very kind. And thank you all for coming here. I'm going to jump right into it and tell you that the film industry, anybody who's part of the film industry in whichever form, this not being a very structured industry, everybody's story is unique.
All right.
Every person coming into the film industry has a unique success story. Be it Mr. Bachchan, be it Mr. Shah Rukh Khan, or be it any one of us today who are involved with the film industry, because nobody actually goes to do an outdoor advertising course.
Right, absolutely.
It manifests itself as you go, right? So I realized not to feel that privileged because of a unique success story, because I realized that from every singer, every dancer, every choreographer, every sound recordist and a graphic engineer who's present in the industry today, all have a very unique carved out story. I think the only commonality that everybody would have is the ability to recognize an opportunity and grab onto it with snake teeth. Right. And I think that's the commonality, the sort of the common quality with everybody with a certain level of success in the industry today. As far as I am concerned, I've realized that inadvertently, my entire life, from the time I was born and brought up in Bihar, I'm a South Indian, so I speak Tamil at home, but I was born and brought up in Bihar, which is as Hindi as it gets. From there, and my entire life journey was actually preparing me for a consolidated life in the film industry. First as a writer and now as a director and storyteller. One of the most important things for you to succeed in today's world as far as the film industry is concerned as an actor, which a lot of actors don't realize, is having an immense amount of true life experiences.
Okay.
Having the ability to want to learn something new every other week. Having to make yourself aspirational to the audience that watches you, not just in terms of your six-pack or your good looks or your ability to dance, because now every Tom, Dick and Harry, his mother and dog is dancing. So on YouTube, if you look at it, everybody, and if you look at all the dance shows and if you look at all the TV shows, the kids are dancing much better than we actors can ever imagine to in a single take. So that doesn't make us aspirational. So what is it about your life experience? What is it that you're able to get out of your life experiences that an ordinary man wants to consider you aspirational, wants to consider you larger than life? What is it that he wants to come and see you on the screen and ready to pay for it because you're better than him in a particular aspect? So for me, I was lucky enough because, like I said, I was born and brought up in Bihar. My parents were both very successful people. And I was known largely as the Raghunath's son. And for me to get out of that identification was very important. So I got an opportunity to be an exchange student in Canada when I was 17 years old. So from Bihar, where it was 30 degrees or 35 degrees centigrade in spring, I went to Canada and studied as an exchange student where the temperature was minus 30 degrees.
Wow.
So I used to actually go to school on horse and feed the horse, live in a farm, live with cowboys. All experiences I didn't know then, but things that are coming to help me out right now. So those are the things that I pocketed in my memory and used it at the right time. My experience with NCC helped me with Rang De Basanti or Seahawks. My experiences with dealing with people in different parts of the world and how they react to different cultures, how they react to Indian culture, what is it that they think about India, what is it that we have about them that is misconception. All this travel, first of all, Mr. Rajiv, makes you understand a lot about the world, but more importantly, it makes you understand a lot about yourself.
Absolutely.
Your ability to tolerate things, you're able to understand why their culture demands that and how you should respect it instead of passing judgment. All these rules, all these learnings have helped me play different characters quite convincingly in the films that I do. So if you look at the projects that I do, by and large, they're very character driven. They're not the run-of-the-mill dancing around the trees, romancing the heroines sort of films. There are characters which are in-depth and researched, and my life experiences have largely helped in getting me there. So if you ask me one aspect of my success in the film industry, it's my ability to want to gather as much life experiences as possible. In fact, even now, if I do a movie, then most people complain that I take a long time to do my movies because I take a 2-3 year break to research for my next script, which is what I'm doing right now.
Fantastic. What a wonderful story to start with. So at a very young age, did you think that you would actually have a career in films? Because you were doing so many things at the same time, including being an exchange student in Canada, which would have probably taken you to another destination altogether. So,
I never fathomed that I'll be an actor. Actually, like I said, my whole life had been preparing me for it, but I wanted to finish my electronics and then my master's in advertising and public relations, which is what I was doing at KC College and never managed to finish. But I was also simultaneously conducting courses on public speaking and communication skills. Because of my vast experiences and travel, I had also the opportunity to give many interviews. And while I was in Kolhapur, where I was studying electronics, a lot of my friends came and said, you keep going to all these interviews, can you tell us how to appear for these engineering interviews that we go to? Because a lot of these people are studying in Kolhapur, they didn't know how to speak English as well, but they were good engineers. They were very good technicians, right? But whenever they went for an interview with either Kirloskars or the Tatas, their ability not to communicate in English got in their way of getting selected.
right.
So all these people used to come to me in the hostel and I used to teach them on how to present themselves in an interview, how to shake hands with a man with respect to a lady, how to tie a tie, and how to sit, how to talk, how to listen, more importantly, how to be themselves. And this started off as a friendly advice to my fellow classmates, and slowly became a class, and slowly became a well-attended class, so much so that I got thrown out of the hostel because the principal is saying, you have more attendance in your class than people have in the college. So that was a fact. So I had to leave the hostel and started this class. I started charging people for it not because I wanted to earn money, but I realized at a very young age that unless you charge, they don't take it seriously. And therefore, people who don't pay money tend to lighten the atmosphere with respect to people who really want to come and learn. So when they all start paying, they're all equally invested. And then the quality of the class and the learning becomes much better. So that's how I started teaching, and then my teaching brought me to Bombay. So I was conducting courses in Bombay on dining table etiquettes and telephone etiquettes and things that normally they don't teach in hostels and schools and colleges. And that became a roaring business. In early 90s, I was making 70,000-80,000 rupees a month just teaching for 4 hours a day.
Which was really good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't short for $1 at that time. I was very lucky. Yeah.
Marvelous. In fact, if I am not wrong, Madhavan not only taught people public speaking and personality development, but I think he also pursued some studies there and participated in a national championship. He won in public speaking and went on to represent in Japan, right? You went and participated in an international public speaking competition in Japan. If you can tell us something about that, and how is it that you went off from electronics to a completely different space and you were there?
Even as I was studying in college, I realized that my academics was not going to help me at all, in the sense that it was so, the syllabus was so obsolete that by the time I finished learning, semiconductors, we were way ahead in superconductors and other aspects of engineering. So I used college as a place where I learned life experiences, learned dealing with people, understanding people and stuff. One of the things that used to happen is a lot of these competitions used to happen in Kolhapur, and as hostel students we always were short of money, which is evident to anybody who's lived in hostels. And we used to see these competitions being conducted in Kolhapur where the prize money was 5,000 rupees or 6,000 rupees. So my friend and I, who had by that time spoken enough to be considered well-spoken people on stage, we used to choose competitions to see which had the maximum money and appear for it and win the money and use that to party.
All right.
And that brought me to this competition which was being organized by the Indian Junior Chambers. It was a national level public speaking competition. With God's grace, we won that and I got selected to go to Japan. I also won the NCC Best Cadet and was selected to go to England and train with the Royal Army, Navy and the Air Force.
Absolutely.
So by the time I was 23, I had traveled multiple times around the world at somebody else's expense. My parents really thought I was in the mafia because they didn't know where I was getting the money to do it. But India is a lovely, wonderful place for such opportunities. People are not aware of it. But as a middle class guy, I was able to do this by the time I was 22. Like I said, all these experiences put together prepared me for a life of an actor.
Quite incredible. At the age of 23, you have already done your bachelor's in electronics and you studied about semiconductors. You were one of the best NCC cadets in the country, and that took you to UK, and you trained with, I think if I'm not mistaken, the Royal Air Force and the military there. Perhaps you may have considered a career in the armed forces perhaps at that time. You also did this public speaking and personality development, won the national level championship, went to Tokyo, won prizes there, you made money, and after all of these things, you went into movies, and if I'm not wrong, I think you made your debut sometime around 1999. And since then, there's been no looking back. You did so well in the southern film industry, and in a very short time, you made a mark in the Hindi film industry as well. For a person of your background, I'm sure a lot of our friends here would be interested to know as well, is that breaking into a highly competitive industry, and of which I think the film industry is easily one of the most competitive of all, did you really think that you belonged there? As I said, you did not come with a filmy background of an actor parent foisting you into this particular career and giving you all of the support, which I'm sure a lot of people were privileged to have that. And yet, of course, you had a lot of other support systems, but you were a very self-driven person. But all said and done, entering the film industry, which is actually the burning ambition of a lot of people, but they don't make it, right? It's a very, very difficult film industry to break into. How did you do that? And once you got there, did you really believe that you belonged there?
Oh, it's a very, very relevant question. To answer the second part of your question, I still don't feel that I belong here.
Okay.
In the sense that, and I think that's a lovely place to be. Starting to feel like you belong in the film industry is actually the first sign of complacence, which leans towards your downfall from the industry. You have to be on your toes at all times. So you're right. When I came into the industry, किसी को नहीं जानता था मैं, and I really did not know one person. But I got to tell you that there's a lot of talk happening about nepotism and people not being given chances.
I think it's a raging topic actually.
Yeah, but I'm the exact opposite of it.
You are indeed the opposite of that.
I have always met nice people in the industry. I've always met people. I think it also your approach and your demure that helps people with the same quality gravitate towards you. So I think my ability to talk to the common man, being born and brought up in Bihar, I was able to talk to the lightmen and the spot boys much more openly than I was with actually the higher up in the hierarchy. So at a time when there was no publicity and no newspapers talking about television actors,
Yes.
my biggest PR happened to be the spot boys and the chai walas who used to recommend me to different producers and say, that guy is good, yaar, ye wo acha banda hai usko. So that's how it started off.
Wow,
So,
how nice to know that. Really.
Yeah. So can you imagine in a very unstructured television industry, early 1900s, where you don't know who to cast. Even if you wanted to cast somebody, there was no way of knowing how to contact them because there were no phone numbers. We were all new to Bombay.
Yes.
So, you know, at that time in 93, 94, getting a telephone line was almost impossible.
Yes.
It was the good luck that mobiles and pagers came, that people were able to get in touch with us. But even then, they didn't know how to get in touch. How do you get somebody's numbers? So it's all hearsay. कि भाई किसी को जानता है, तू किसी को जानता है, कोई अच्छी actress है, कोई heroine ऐसा है. And that's how, knowing the least common denominator who went to all these sets, these spot boys and these assistants and lightmen, they started promoting me. Excuse me. So they started promoting me, and as a result of which, I started getting more work than most people did. And that made me feel like I belonged to the industry, at least in the lower strata.
All right.
Obviously, the film industry, you know, used to look down upon the television industry at that point of time because it was considered a step down.
Right.
No television actor had actually made it big as a film actor except for Mr. Shah Rukh Khan. But slowly that transition started happening. Slowly your experience on television started working towards your benefit. So
Right.
people used to tell me, you have done so many television series, you're overexposed, you will never do films. And I got a call from Mr. Mani Ratnam for my first debut film.
Yes.
Then they said, you're doing so many South Indian films, you'll never get accepted as a Hindi film actor. My first film was Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein in Hindi.
Yes.
And that went on to become a cult hit posthumously, like I call it.
Absolutely.
But every time they said a rule existed, it didn't apply to me. And you know, I had to make sure that I imparted that knowledge to everybody because the only way that most people try to control or succeed in the film industry is try to understand it and put it in a set of rules.
Okay.
So the rules was to be an actor, you have to be a tall, fair looking guy and know how to dance and sing very well. If you have that, then you'll be a hero. That rule doesn't work. You know, so if you make these kind of films which are commercial matter films, only those films work. Then Lagan came and changed those rules. Then when you said you can only make larger films, then Rang De Basanti came and changed those rules. So every time people try to encapsulate the industry in a set of rules, the ones that come and break it make a mark for themselves.
Right.
So I understood later on that you have to keep breaking it. I do not know how many of you all know the story. I'm going to give you a small example of the bald-headed American eagle. Do you know the story of?
No. Please go ahead. Tell us.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you all know it, but it's been a very motivating story for me. You know, we are all at that age. We are all at our middle age right now, and we're very tempted to go into cruise control, you know. So you just try to keep the business going, you know, making the kind of profits that we made last year and not wanting to learn anything more because it really becomes tough to learn the rules of the new world, okay? And the same situation is faced by the American bald eagle. When the eagle is born, it's you know, it's a very powerful bird.
Yes.
Its talons are long, the beak is sharp, the feathers are light and fluffy, and it's able to catch its prey. But as it becomes about 35, 40 years old, a lot of fungus develops on the feathers. So the wings and the feathers become heavy.
Yes.
The beak has become so big that it actually arches inwards. So it's not really able to tear the prey. The talons, the claws of the eagle, the nails also kind of curve so much that they're not able to grab the prey.
Right.
So there comes a time when the eagle is tired just doing normal things. It can't eat, it can't fly. And so that eagle has to go on top of a nest on a hillock and decide whether it has to die or, like they say, take the flight of life again. Some eagles just decide to let go at that point of time. They're ready to call it a day and they end up starving to death or dying and becoming prey. Yet others, the first thing that the eagle does is uses its beak to pull out all its feathers. So it actually pulls out all its feathers and becomes completely bald in the body. Then it uses its beak to pull out its talons. So it actually
Right.
pulls out all its claws, and it becomes bloody, but it just pulls it off. And then in that weak state, it'll take its beak and start banging it against the rock. Every time it bangs it, the beak will break a little bit till the beak completely breaks off. So it'll be left with no beak. No beak, no claws, no feathers. And it just goes into a huddle with all that pain and agony and waits. And over a period of 3.5, 4 months, the young feathers develop again, the beak comes out, the talons are there, and it becomes a powerful new bird at the age of 40 again. And that is the time it takes the second flight of life. That's considered to be one of the most astonishing sights to see that eagle take flight again. And I think that all of us over here, on a yearly basis, have to decide when to break up beaks and claws and talons every year.
Absolutely. Very well said. I think, one, of course, I get to understand that the best rule is not to have a rule. Secondly, I think we have to be continuously reinventing ourselves.
Without a doubt.
I guess. That's somewhere along in your very, very great description about the eagle, it reminds me of your particular role in this movie, Three Idiots, where you are pursuing your bachelor's in engineering, but your real interest was in photography. Is that really true in your real life as well?
Oh yeah. My parents did want me to become, because they were working for Tata Steel. So for me to become an engineer, come back and live in the same house that my father had as an officer, was their ultimate middle class dream. Either that or to take a green card and settle in the US, which is a popular middle class dream at any given point of time. But for me, that was not the dream. I knew that I was not built to do a 9-to-5 job on a table, so I had to take some tough decisions myself, much to the agony of my parents. They really thought that they had failed as parents because they were not able to direct me towards what they thought was good for me. Of course, now it's a whole different story.
Right.
But I think Three Idiots is a story that exists in everybody's life.
Absolutely. Madhavan, I'll come to the final question. I know you have been extremely hard pressed for time, but I cannot not ask the question about your directorial venture, which is rocketry, the Nambi effect. I'm sure many of you here would have seen the movie. If you haven't, I strongly recommend that you should. But I've seen the movie, and it's an incredible story. It's not just a movie about entertainment. It's a movie about national spirit. It's a movie about perseverance. It's a movie about making incredible decisions in life that have an indelible impact, not just on your own self, but about humanity. It is an amazing story. If you can just quickly tell us what really led you to that. I'm sure there's been a tremendous lot of ground research that you did. The references that you had about space research was quite incredible. You were dealing with terms like, reverse shock wave, liquid propulsion, solid state, and many more. I think it must have been an incredible preparation to do a film on that. I'd really like you to tell us, and with that, I think we will conclude, and you give us a message for this industry as well.
Yeah, rocketry was a lifetime film for me. It was something that when I heard the story, I was completely moved. It's a calling. I also realized, Mr. Rajiv, that India is full of these silent patriots. There must be a reason why India today is one of those countries that is still called a functional democracy.
Yes.
With a financial system that is actually progressive compared to all the other countries around us. I mean, we're unfortunately stuck with the Asian mentality, right? But look at what is happening in Sri Lanka or Nepal or Pakistan or Bangladesh, any of these countries. There is something different about the people in India, and there is something different about our professionalism, about our commitment, about our professionals, about our technocrats. If you look at the top Fortune 500 companies today, and the top 14 are Indian CEOs.
Right.
There must be a reason why that is happening, right? And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that we Indian middle class are the most patriotic, committed sect in the entire world. We are the kind of people who actually care truly for our country. We might not be able to show it outwardly on many platforms, but as a nation, if you leave the Indian middle class alone, if you let them do their job, if you let them just take care of their children, get their daughters married, get their sons settled, you'll have a very, very stable country. It's only when we start interfering with the middle class that things go haywire. And I think with rocketry, I realized that Nambi Narayan himself is a very middle class man. With very middle class living, but with super genius mindset, to achieve the kind of stuff for Indian space research that most people in other countries were not even able to come remotely close to.
Right.
To build one liquid fuel engine that has never failed and have that as a world record is truly a matter of privilege. But the sad part is nobody knew about him. Nobody knew about his sacrifice, and nobody knew as a nation what we did to him, which is why I had to end up making the movie, and I'm very grateful that I got to tell his story. And I'm very grateful that Nambi Narayan sir is known around the world today and is being appreciated, and people are apologizing to him. And
Absolutely. I'm sure you will have to find a lot of time to receive a lot of awards that will come your way as well. Madhavan, it was an incredible time for me to have this conversation with you, and I'm absolutely certain that all of you would have also enjoyed listening to the myriad stories and the great achievements that Madhavan has had in his life. I really thank you very much on behalf of everybody gathered here, on behalf of the Indian out-of-home advertising industry, that you came here and you shared your wonderful journey with us. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. R. Madhavan, thank you very much for joining us here today. We absolutely loved how you spoke about your own unique journey and how unique your life path has been, and how each one of us is walking our own unique journey. So thank you very much. You've inspired us.